Now we're going to have our final presentation of the day for AEPS, and this one is going to be evolutionarily informed music in the arts and performance, and it's going to be given by Dawn Hobbs and Baba Brinkman. Dawn Hobbs was a graduate of SUNY Albany, worked with Gordon Gallup on embedded reproductive messages in music, among other things, and then she's also a cellist, so she applies her talents as well. And Baba Brinkman, I'm sure most of you have heard of him. He got his master's degree at the University of Victoria, I believe, in Canada, and he got his degree in Renaissance literature, or British Renaissance literature, or the like. And basically now he's taken his talents, he's taken all his knowledge in academics and brought them to an applied venue, and has become a rapper, a pretty famous rapper. He's had a few off-Broadway productions and several great shows that he's produced. Rap Guide to Human Nature, Rap Guide to Business, Rap Guide to Evolution. And if you come tonight to his concert, he'll be more than happy to share some of these tunes with you. But for now, he and Dawn are going to give a presentation on applying evolutionary psychology in the arts and music.
I'm sure this iconic still is familiar to most people here. It's from the movie Say Anything, and John Cusack is famously holding up a boombox, and he's outside of his girlfriend's window trying to get her attention and win her heart. And of course he uses music to do this. It's the best tool that he could use, because humans use music to connect with each other. And consequently, sex, vocalist, age, and gender sells songs. So, some very ancient background. Music is an enduring feature of human behavior, and in caves in Germany, scientists have found bone flutes that date back to 35,000 years ago. And there's a very interesting research by Ian Cross analyzing these stone tools, which are called hand axes, and he's actually reinterpreting stone tools by analyzing strike patterns in the flint. And he's concluding that some of these axes were actually used as instruments rather than for their acoustic properties, rather than for cutting. Recent research on linguistics is linking similarities between language and music in highly specific domains such as infant-directed speech, motherese, and even loverese. And anthropologists and archaeologists are building eloquent arguments for music as a proto-language. Stephen Midland details how early hominids use music in a variety of capacities, giving them adaptive advantages. And Ian Cross, I mentioned, is pioneering a new field called lithoacoustics. So why is music applied? It's a universal behavior. One of the reasons I find the study of music to be so fascinating is precisely because it pervades so many domains, from entertainment to neuroscience, culture to cognition, economics to evolution. Pick your perspective, and music can be studied from that platform. There were clear adaptive advantages to making and perceiving music in our evolutionary past, and evolutionary theory informs us that we don't get expensive emotions for free, so we don't really get freebies when it comes to time, energy, and resources, and yet music demands many of these in great quantities. Recent TV hits seem to be increasingly music-oriented. We have American Idol, The Voice, Glee. They're tapping into an innate hunger for the human voice. And the music business, in all of its permutations, generates a tremendous amount of money. My particular passion is popular songs, and I view them as a microcosm for the entire field. And of course we have artists like Baba Brinkman, we're hard-pressed to categorize him I think he's part scientist.
That much. And part of the costly signaling challenge is to find the ones that fit most naturally into common speech so that you can use them to describe something familiar and real and intuitively easy to relate to for the audience, right? So these ones for me, I could use these in a sentence that was relevant to high fertility and build a whole rhyme scheme of a 16 bar around those rhymes. So what I want you guys to do now is take that similar approach to all of these other evolutionary psychology jargon words. Yeah.
Can we hear the beat first?
Can you hear the beat? Yes, I have the beat right here. And I will play the beat while people do their writing.
Do we do it as a group or individually?
I'd like people to work in groups of 2 or 3. And each group should come up with 4 lines, at least 4 lines. You're going to have like 7 minutes to work on this. And then we're going to come back together and we're going to have a cipher. So I just want to make one thing really clear. Don't come back to me with rhymes for fitness display. Check out the words that I say. It's a fitness display because I've had a hell of a day. That wouldn't fulfill the rhyming pattern criteria. Fitness display has to use the fit sound of fitness as well as the A sound in display, and the unstressed syllables are irrelevant, right? So you're really finding the 2 stresses, finding rhymes for them, and trying to find phrases that match that 2-stress rhyming pattern, and then using those in sort of descriptively relevant lines to make a 4-bar quatrain, yeah?
Yeah, there's a common stress pattern for particular words, but it seems to me that you could also as well use an uncommon stress pattern to make it match.
That's true. You could do that. The one way that you can, hijack a word that wouldn't seem to rhyme to make it rhyme is by misstressing it, because rhyme is really based on stress. If the word, that's why Charlton doesn't rhyme with Heston, right? Because even though they have the same ending, the stress part is different in both cases. So, the most natural way to figure out where exactly it works is just to pronounce the word with a little bit of urgency. The more sort of emotion you have in your voice, the more obvious the stress becomes. Ultimate cause, resources, costly signal, Darwinian, mate quality, arms race, reproductive relevance. See, there's always there's various stresses in like reproductive relevance. Reproductive relevance could actually have 4 stresses, but there's primary stresses, reproductive relevance. And if you did it any other way, I promise you'd end up sort of pronouncing it awkwardly. So just try to pronounce the phrase in the least awkward sounding way, and that's the easiest way to find where the stresses are. Or check with me, or mispronounce the stress on purpose to find yourself a more easy rhyme, and that usually works for comedy effect.
Are we doing it for each word? Or
No, just pick any which one of these sort of looks the most easy to work with to you, because everyone has different preferences in terms of which sounds roll off their tongue, so I wanted to give you a bunch of choices, and hopefully the different groups will all pick a bunch of different ones, and that'll give us a nice evolutionary psychology cipher to drop at the end.
They have to be the ones there.
No, they don't have to be the ones there. The thing to notice about the ones here is that they're all based on a 2-stress phrase, right? Fitness display. So if you can think of another one that's a 2-stress phrase, but don't just say, okay, I'm going to choose a different rhyme. It's going to be mating. Because mating on its own has no rhyme pattern. It would have to be like a, mating strategy. That would have a rhyme pattern. So it's got to have 2 stresses in it for it to work, basically. If you want to choose your own, you're welcome to. But, that's the criteria. Everybody good? I'm going to play the beat. I'll sort of come around and check in how people are doing. And we'll come back and have a...
Yes, it did.
show. No, it's just, that's, I don't know if that's exactly something like that. Man. No? Okay. I mean, come on, that's it. I I'm trying. I don't know if almost done. Read this?
Well, yeah, just give me a little sample.
Okay, go shoot. Hold on, I gotta do the beats. I was even thinking of the beat when I was writing this. I was just
Yeah, it's good.
I don't think we're actually.
That's great. There you go. Consumer psychology, moving and confidence. That's pretty good, huh? Yeah.
We're gonna publish it again. Is gonna get a house in Southern California? One song. It doesn't make shape of other music, but what Bob does is extraordinarily creative, whereas things that billion sellers are really just
Psychological.
Good. We got all of these.
Except for the Darwinian doesn't have all of it.
Those is that? I have to see your pet policy. Is that in there, or is that? Not the rap. Okay. Because I want to specifically do stuff. Because I do that several people and see the structure of my TED Talks. I want to change that. So it's not
What do you have with some of the interaction?
you're gonna that's what we're going to have to do. So we had the content, and now is that going to turn out about
But there is this because of this.
But I think it's all it was, but I mean, the whole continent was bigger last year. Therefore, a lot of people
So it wasn't people coming as night day, right? It was just coming earlier in the day. When you can sleep, yeah. That was the thought. It was like, well, do I really want to do that program? I want that. So I was talking about the rest of I applied there. None of them that was sort of, I was going to leave that one. Nick was going to talk more about practice and that.
It is the trick.
Definitely on there. I'm gonna get some population of
We did some of the work, so. It was really, it's really. Oh man, I could have done it. I mean, I did. I was really. But you back it up. Good. You know what I mean?
psychodynamic type of
Like, wow.
I mean, it sort of put me off the hook. It's not like I was going to be frozen on it. I just had time to sit down and read it, and I pop out at it. But I heard of it.
Oh, yeah, you can go back to the lady.
That's my art. So it's
And I'm just going to run.
I'll check that out.
Here's another talk after.
Terrible, because I figured I'd get back.
Let's leave before we're done. We'll send you a follow-up. We're gonna like to do just talk about myself.
Yeah, but the stuff's over at the
Figure out time.
the gear is at the
Wrap up. So, probably do Brian, y'all talking about we're gonna talk about rap.
Yeah, I think let's give it a little minute. Then we'll have people perform a little bit.
Just wanted to give everybody their 1 minute warning. If you've got something in the works, think of a like killer concluding line, and who of each group is going to be the designated delivery vessel that does the actual performance. You know, don't be shy. It's everyone's first time except for mine, so you know there's going to be varying levels of ineptitude and its opposite in the house, and it's just part of the fun is being a joke, and it's being people's first time. So.
Bahamas Sandals karaoke champion, by the way.
And you know, The Godfather has been in a music video featuring famous rappers.
Ariel just bought me brandy. Oh, tonight's gonna be great.
Oh, really?
Yes.
What do you mean?
No, bought me brandy.
He's not, should be, he might even come out at this moment. He might, couldn't make it. And he almost was going to try to do it when, before we were sure the sample was going to be, but I don't see like I couldn't, you know, I could fill in if I take my daughter out of the day or about really early. And when Hamilton was able to fill in, I said, you know,
I have a question for you. So, how about styles and
Twister, yeah. Yes.
So how does that fit? Here you're talking about how well it's structured. What about Justin?
Well, what Twister does is he raps really fast and emphasizes his rhyme. And Ludacris does that as well. You know, they give me the rhythm and it'll be off with their toes. Just bend over to the front, touch toes. Give me the rhythm and it'll be off with their clothes, right? And so like that's what Twister does as well. He'll pack a whole lot of syllables in, and then his rhyme will be like bow, bow, and that's where the rhyme is still on display. So there's still a sort of like look at how creative I am with rhymes. There's a whole other side to this presentation going to be about the tricky syncopated rhythms and how many words you can fit in between the beats. There's a whole other class of signaling. You can be good with rhyme and wordplay and not good with the rhythm, or vice versa. But the best rappers do both.
Vocoders, I like it.
You know, he's got roundly mocking.
There you go.
But some rappers have some R&B singers.
Thomas, where are you? Are we getting, is the video still working and everything? Great, so your memory card doesn't run out or anything, right? I'm so happy. Change the battery. Great, we'll have a sweet product. Alright, Brian.
Hey, Godfather, I got a package for you.
You like that, huh? What's that? That's pure sex.
I'm not
Okay.
gonna steal some words, but that was high quality.
So I think the way to do this, rather than have any like, you know, it's not my turn next, is it? Is just like go across the room and each person jumps on the beat after the last person is finished, and then we'll do a sort of cumulative round of applause at the end, rather than dwelling on each individual one. So however much you got, just at the end of your verse, give a yeah. Yeah, and that'll be the indicator that you know you A, feel entirely confident about the thing that you just said, and B, are inviting the next person to step into the cipher. And let's just go across the room like that. And you know, I'm sure everyone here is familiar with the psychology of the sort of peak and end of any experience being the most important part. So the more conviction with which you deliver the yeah, the more talented people will remember you as having been. All right. It's going to demonstrate my unfitness.
We're talking paleo, and honestly, I don't know where we're wanting to go, but all systems go when you're avoiding grains and dairy.
Yeah!
All right, we're sweeping across the room. Dive in.
Yeah, I see you checking out my fitness display. way, and I know at the end of the day, you'll come back and say, you're making me cray. Yeah.
Yeah! Ben.
In Mizzou and Maserati, it's super high quality. Chicks are looming and calling me, dig my consumer psychology. Got a package for you, correcting all your etymology, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah! Right in the back. Alright. Nice and loud.
Alright. Boyd Hall, boy, tall professors, be surprised to see blonde LeBrons on this top of this rapping game. Can't you see? Shit. Hold on. Poppin' yo cherry with the stick and victim melody. No 5K for me, running around all your feet. These words be hitting them. These words hit them. We be Kennedy so mercilessly. Yo sister wish she was with this killer PhD. hard to get in with the D.
That was an ambitious rhythmic pattern. Yeah. Tight. Jump in?
Okay, but I can't do it with the rhythm. The ultimate cause of the ungulate's jaws and psychological flaws are the awful laws of Darwinian thought. But creationists say it's the fault of the gods.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maternal investment depends on paternal commitment. Light babies, daddy's maybe. An ultimate cause that gives you pause, at least until menopause. When granny's gametes are gone, she'll park her seat on your lawn. Nurture the chillins, chillin' with the children until you wish she was gone. And the children's move on to continue this song. Yeah.
Yeah! Is there one right there as well? Yeah.
It's time for the next adventure. A rhyme-spitting evolutionist, though I tend to use it to suspend conjecture. Oh shit, my bad. Every dead contender becomes an effective measure. Evidence my sentences act as a selection pressure. Sorry, I'm having trouble with the fast tempo.
It's sick rhymes.
My views are intuitive and confusing but give light, cause all my outlooks are inclusive to insight. In pursuit of the truth, influence humans to live right as I ignite fumes for that spew my windpipe. And with my, after I found the right words, I can fill a page to illustrate how the mind works. Such a foul. Oh shit. Sorry, it's a little tempo. Let me restart that. My bad.
Now do it again.
Alright. Yo. And with minds, after I find the right words, we can fill a page to illustrate how the mind works. Such a foul device serves me. The reason is immediate. Proceed to lead obedient crowds to my terms. In defect, don't even make the attempt. I'm sacred and bold. The bailiff is told to hold the hate and contempt. I will devastate your brain and erase its effect till there's nothing left of you, like hemispatial neglect.
Yo.
Alright, do it.
I need to understand what is happening inside. Oh, hold on. Sorry. Alright. 2, 3, yo. I need to understand what is happening inside. The cavity where tragedy and travesty collide. Revolution heads of humans have been crafted and designed. Several facets of the mind have adapted to survive.
Record it.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I might have to play some of my tracks for you guys. All right, everyone who just rapped for the first time tonight, give yourselves a massive hand. That is the entire process in action. And once you start understanding this rhyming pattern thing, you will hear it in every rap song, and you might get obsessed with it because every time you think you've run out of rhymes, there's another rhyme and another rhyme and another rhyme. So I'll just do, as a closing piece, this is my attempt to pack as many of these rhyme patterns as I can into one verse. And it goes, come on, gathering close, cause I'm scattering flows that'll be shattering hopes when I'm battling foes with rhymes and rattling rows, traveling slow just like a paddling boat, but I got javelin throws, my spit splattering clothes when I'm unraveling dope disses and flattering boasts, my ego is fatter than most, my humor's blacker than crows, if I'm tackier smokes, I might leave half of them soaked in acid and coke just for a practical joke, and then laugh when you show up with a nicotine patch on your throat. When I'm rapping at shows, I throw accurate blows that'll be fast to engross your immaculate immaculate soul, snatch control, capture it whole, and then enrapture your ghost and keep it trapped where it froze, like the grass after it snows, until you have to let go, cause I'm the only master it knows, and your reaction is so sad, but hey, that's how it goes. Thank you, and I guess we didn't do
We're gonna have a
questions.
joint Q&A now for Baba and Dawn real quick. So Dawn, can you come back up here? Yeah. Yes.
Can
Nick.
another rapper present the way you do?
I'm sure there are other rappers who could potentially do that, but I think once you sort of commit to the hip-hop path, you don't tend to crossbreed with academia very much anymore. And I've had a relatively unique experience in that I started rapping with the intention of popularizing academic subjects using rap as a vehicle. And since I've been making a living as a rapper, a good percentage of my gigs have been at universities, because I perform the Rap Guide to Evolution and the Canterbury Tales remix. I get booked by both biology and English departments, and have been in the position to have to explain rap on various levels as a creative writing technique, as an analogy, a contemporary analogy of Homer and Beowulf and Shakespeare and Chaucer in the oral traditions, and also as a sort of evolved costly signaling display phenomenon. That's just put me in the position to sort of read and rap and think about where the links are, and I don't know that other
So is
rappers.
getting charted a high priority for you?
Apparently not. Although I'd still love to sell millions of records. I don't, my bottom line is I want to make a living off of it and be sustainable, and I want to be able to rap about what interests me. And if I can find a way to, do that and also sell a million, absolutely I want to reach as many people as possible, but I'm not trying to dumb it down, basically.
So you talked a lot about the evolution of rhyme construction, from simplistic kind of this rhythmic or very like monosyllabic, to these multisyllabic. What about the evolution of rhyme patterning? Like as opposed to A, A, B, A, B, A, B, or A, B, B, A, B, B, A, limerick versus sonnet sort of rhyming, things like that.
In rap, it's all about end rhyme and it's all couplets, although you can continue the couplets for various amounts of time. Rappers don't really do A, B, C, D patterns because you forget what the A is by the time you've heard the D, and then it doesn't work musically anymore. So what the most they ever do is alternate A, B, and even that is sort of an oddball thing for rappers to choose to do. They're like clearly diverging from the couplet standard. Although what you can do, and most rappers do, is compensate for that by being very intricate with internal rhyme. So sort of what they call chiastic rhyme, so it's sort of A, B, B, A, but the B's are inside the line, and it still makes the couplets line up at the end. And that's really what makes it work with the musical phrasing, which is almost all 4/4.
Dawn?
Yeah.
Is there any indication in what you found as to the income generated from these songs?
I'm really curious about that. I'm looking for numbers, and I think the data is out there, but you have to pay for it. And so, yeah, like you have to pay for Billboard's marketing magazine, and it's a subscription, and it's more than I'm willing to spend right at this moment. So I know that the numbers are out there. I'm just not sure how to get a hold of them. But that's absolutely a direction that I want to go in with my research. I want to try to pair the singers with the audience and the genres with the audience,
Right.
because it's absolutely driven by the market. So the audience is consuming, and part of the age and gender information that I'm looking at now is why are there so many male singers that reach the and it seems pretty obvious to say that the younger female singers that's the reproductive, basically the meat of the woman's reproductive years are going to be at that certain point, and they taper off as she gets older, and probably the male consumers don't want to hear in this subset of music that I'm looking at. So
Is there an interaction between gender and themes?
That is also the next thing that I'm looking at right now. So I suspect strongly that there are. I think it's going to vary a little bit across the genres. So I've done just a very brief analysis, and I'm finding that in the R&B genre, women tend to sing about resources a lot. And in country, the women are tending to sing about commitment. So but I don't have a large enough sample. I want to do a large study to make sure that these trends are accurate.
Yeah, actually, this issue and male and female reproductive strategies are addressed remarkably accurately in Meatloaf's Paradise by the Dashboard Lights.
Oh, yeah.
And what each party is concerned about. But I actually have a question related to the Billboard charts. You know, I really am not the person to be knowledgeable at this, but is hip hop and rap, is that included in R&B? So those statistics that you're presenting where it says R&B, that's really like rap and hip hop, it's just the music industry doesn't want to label stuff that specifically?
Well, I do want to turn this over to him, but in one of my slides, the black and white decade slide where it showed that R&B took off.
Yeah.
So that is around the same time period that hip hop started to really become an influence. The charts have complicated, and especially R&B has a complicated history. It's not just a direct lineage. So what we now think of as R&B, I think incorporates a lot of influences. It started off as rhythm and blues, which had a lot of gospel influence. But now I think hip hop and rap are their own things. But maybe you can elaborate on this because I'm not an expert.
I'm pretty sure Billboard measures hip hop rap as a separate genre from R&B. But what did happen was that R&B was a sort of almost like more of an adult genre before rap, and then once rap came out, then R&B singers started to use the beats that rap producers were putting under the rap songs. I think Puff Daddy was one of the first people to do this, actually. Mary J. Blige was an R&B singer who was gospel trained, and he said, here's what we're going to do. You're going to sing over these heavy club beats that I've had B.I.G. rapping over, and that's what made her stand out amongst her whole sort of Whitney Houston peer group and accelerated her to multi-million sales, and now that's become the standard that it's sort of like all big beat dance floor stuff today. now we really hell of a sir when it was a bit. You know, we're not really ready to know Adding more in R&B, whereas it used to be more like easy listening kind of R&B. So, rap's fed back into it, and they're collaborating all the time, hybridizing. But I think they're measured differently, and I'd be really interested to see the rap stats.
Maybe next thing.
Just to answer that, there's two charts. One is a combination, it's called the hip hop R&B, and then there's also a separate rap chart, which kind of only includes songs that have like rhymes, like rapping and no singing.
Now, I'm not sure if you ever get the chance to look at where this music is actually being bought and played and sold, but if you looked at the messages embedded where the music is most popular, I would think you'd probably be able to predict answers to survey questions like the importance of investment, single-parent households, number of children, age at first reproduction, things like that.
Very nice, yeah.
more than one thing is mixed in with this. Right now, you're sort of like got a filter and you're looking for things that might be relevant to a particular analysis of it. But at the same time, songs tend to be now about something. And sometimes there's the concept of like a carrier and a signal. And sometimes what you're doing is you're singing about something and you're using something else in order to make your point. So like if you want to talk about the difficulty in getting yourself to do what you think you ought to do, you might talk about it in terms of infidelity or something. But you're not singing about infidelity. You're using infidelity, like the concepts that people are already familiar with, to sing about something else. And so that'll show up when you're in your analysis as being, they're singing about infidelity, but they're using that because it's commonly understood ways of talking, like something that a lot of people have some kind of experience with, and they can use that to talk about this thing.
This is a very interesting point that you bring up. So this brings to mind several songs that I analyzed use the term rape, not in the way that we think of. So the specific reference was, I raped the game, and it meant that they were a really good basketball player. It's an offensive reference to me personally, but the context in which they used that word was not a sexual, they didn't mean it that way. And so I'm of two minds of this. You know, part of me thinks that, okay, I throw that particular reference out because they were using it in a way that had nothing to do with mates. But that word is clearly conveying a lot of information that has a broad meaning. So this is a good thing to look at, and I'm not exactly sure how to answer the question succinctly, but it's something I've been thinking about. So yeah, it's a good point.
In the canon of English literature, so many poems, great poems, are about death. What's up with death in the corpus that you analyzed, and is death a theme in rap?
Yeah, I mean, it's a ubiquitous theme, and it's partially that a lot of rappers come from high mortality urban zones, and they just rap about what they see. I don't personally associate rap references to rape with rap references to death, except insofar as both of them can sometimes come from the sort of shock rap genre that is attempting to communicate a single message, which is I just don't give a fuck, and I reject all social norms, including the fear of death and prohibitions against rape. And I think that sort of seems to be the context it comes out in sometimes, although usually it seems to be an ironic or an attempt at irony.
In the songs that I've been looking at, and even ones that just come across my radar, I think there are tons of other evolutionary themes. In-group, out-group bias, death. There are a lot of things that I haven't addressed. So at some point I would love to look at that in more depth. The scope of what I'm doing right now is pretty small. Just to kind of shine a light on reproductive messages as, but definitely other themes are present. So, and I know other researchers are doing analyses of songs for some other very specific evolutionary themes as well.
Anybody else have any questions? Yes?
Yeah, this is for Baba. You were talking about the evolution of rap, and so we're going things, and things get a little bit more complex, or they get these other things. Now, so we're really talking about a cultural evolution aspect of it here. Yeah. And part of what I'm thinking about is you know, people are artfully finding these things that are more attractive, given that there's already this sort of lineage going on. I don't know that anyone would really love the end product so much if there hadn't been the earlier stages to get people ready for it. So there's this sort of elaboration along a theme that goes. Do you think those things die at some point? I mean, is this some sort of artistic expression that goes until they find some other form that starts starts new as a new thing, and then it becomes a more elaborate thing, and each of the innovations that built on top of it, to as an expression of the ability to extend it.
Yeah, people have been predicting the demise of rap for a long time, and it's sort of the longest enduring genre that's the rage with kids now, and actually was 30 years ago as well, which is pretty rare. I think the reason it's so enduring, and the reason I don't expect it to die out, is that it's tapped into something that, personally, I think is an evolved appetite that we have, and it's an appetite for performative linguistic competition. And that's something that's part of, as far as I've read, every culture, some kind of agonistic toe-to-toe storytelling performance, whether it's fireside or Aztec warrior poets or Icelandic sagas or poetry as an Olympic event in ancient Rome, whatever it is, popular public performance poetry in a competitive and potentially humiliating context has been part of all human cultures right up until, 100 or 200 years ago, and that's when there was this rift where poetry was this thing that academics and elites did in a sort of modernist intellectual context, and then there was like folk poetry, which was people still doing it in a balladeer context, and that's kept happening, but they sort of split. And what rap has done is found a way to present the tools of live oral performative storytelling to the young generation in a completely accessible way, saying all you need to do to learn how to master this art form is write some rhymes with a pen and a pad and practice them over a beat. It's totally accessible to anyone, no matter what their socioeconomic status is, and they can really, it's sort of has the potential to level playing field because of the upward mobility factor, which gives it a huge leg up for poor communities as well, and that's really where it comes from. So, as long as rap is empowering poor people to get richer and empowering young people to tell their stories and giving an outlet for the natural verbal creativity that people have and don't really have another outlet for, I predict it just keeps going and gets more interesting and sort of becomes the equivalent of a Shakespearean Renaissance, but in rap.
We'll take one more question, and then we're going to move on. Sorry, it's running a bit late today. Okay.
So I guess this question's for Dawn, but it relates a lot to what Bob was just talking about. I've been fascinated thinking about your work the last hour as kind of an extended phenotype for a culture, sort of almost demonstrating for us what the selection pressures are within a culture and what the social meaning of the culture is. So, like music, we basically have two main hypotheses for how music evolved, right? You've got the Jeffrey Miller hypothesis, which is this individual, what Bob was just talking about, this bravado male trying to demonstrate his fitness in some way, attracting attention to himself and entertaining in a very kind of self-centered sort of way. And you've got the other hypothesis, which is more on the side of, group bonding, and expressing group norms and people don't sing rap around a campfire, I guess is to the shorthand for what I'm trying to say. I mean, it's interesting, especially looking at your differences between country and pop and R&B, how the messages, like some of the reproductive messages are very monogamous, and other of the reproductive messages are a little bit more, shall we say, opportunistic. And I guess I'm fascinated by how that patterning might demonstrate what one culture is trying to promote in its social system versus another one. And if you could just comment on that.
Well, the short answer is I agree that some genres of music may actively be trying to promote certain norms within their culture, but I'm not sure that all of them are. And isolation may be a factor for country music. I mean, you might have audiences who are, or consumers who are relatively isolated, and so urbanization is probably a factor in pop and R&B. I think it's complicated. I'm gonna have fun unraveling, what exactly the trends are, and I'm not, I definitively can't say, well, this is exactly what they're doing with country music, and this is what they're doing with R&B. And I think it's a little dangerous to do so as well, but it's definitely something that I'm continuing to look
And just to add to that, you know, it's true that people don't rap around campfires, but there is a pretty strong sort of communitarian thread to it, and I didn't expect that to be the case until I left Vancouver. And I found that all of the Vancouver rappers were really competitive with each other because they're competing for a local resource niche, and that's the audience for rap in Vancouver. But as soon as I went to Britain and met a bunch of British rappers, and I was a novelty because I was a Canadian in Britain, I found them extremely generous. Oh, come record with me, do a guest verse on my track. I'm doing a show, would you like to do one of your songs in my show? And you know, I've managed to meet rappers in various countries and use the sort of common lexicon of hip hop because we all know all the old school rappers and can quote verses, and the sort of ability to freestyle in a cipher with a bunch of strangers is an instant bonding experience, even though there's still a competitive aspect. You're paying attention to whose skills are better, but once everyone recognizes that everyone's skills are above a certain level, then there's a sort of like, okay, well, we're part of a community even if we've never met before because we have common experiences as being hip-hop heads, and that'll give us common norms and values. And I was just going to suggest to Don, it just occurred to me when you asked that question, you know, an interesting thing to look at in terms of the gender differences in how, you know, who's male versus female in the charts. What about barriers to entry in the genre? Because what I've always noticed is you got actors and actresses fairly equally represented talent pool wise, and you've got in most genres like the pop, for example, male and female pop singers fairly equally represented, but rap is a massively male dominated genre, and so is stand-up comedy. And those two things both strike me as genres where the barrier to entry is you have to stand on stage and be humiliated by a crowd if you screw up. And there's other genres where you're actually sort of like encouraged and coaxed along the whole time and put in front of nothing but safe crowds, and then it becomes more like, you know, what you're able to compose and perform and rehearse and deliver is what you're judged on. Whereas rap specifically, and also stand-up comedy and maybe some of the other genres you're looking at, are ones where you have to play open mics and talent shows and hostile situations where you don't know anyone in the crowd, and the crowd knows their job is to boo you if you suck. And maybe there's actually a natural dimorphism in how tolerant the two genders are to being publicly shamed. And that could end up leading to a disproportionate representation in different genres, which could then lead to who ends up putting out a hit song at the end.
Great idea.
Thank you guys very much. Okay, I'm sorry we were taking up so much of your time tonight. Just a couple of quick announcements before you guys go. First of all, tonight at 8 o'clock there will be a concert right here with some guy performing.